G'day everyone, today I'm here to show you how to play the historical Soviets. Now this was requested by popular demand by you guys, so if there are any other countries that you'd like to see me cover off, just let me know in the comments. And if you haven't seen my other country guides, I'll also link them in the description for you to watch. This guide is mainly single player focused, but it can be a starting point for you if you're a bit of a sicko and you're wanting to get into historical multiplayer, but look, that's up to you. Anyway, let's get into it. Here we are as the Soviet Union in 1936 at the start of the game, and the first thing you guys need to know is the context of this country. They can be a little bit intimidating. I mean, they are the largest country in the game. However, that does also make them one of the most powerful if you know how to use them right. Now, they do start off with a lot of negative effects here. So the main ones being the Trotskyite plot, the politicized military, the Red Army. So these sorts of things, there'll also be others that will pop up as the game goes on. But these sorts of things, there's generally a way to get rid of most of them, and you'll still be a super powerful nation. Now, if you have the No Step Back DLC, probably the most notable feature will be the purges of Stalin, which we haven't gotten to yet. That will happen once you go through the center party and start down this focus here. That will commence the purges. So what we're going to focus on early is getting rid of the purges and getting them done as quick as possible. Now the reason for that is once the purges are complete, then you can start working at getting rid of the negative effects that come out of that, getting your new generals and stuff like that. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the path of Marxism-Leninism. Then what you're going to do is basically just go for the center, and then what you want to do is go down this right hand tree, not this one, just directly down this right hand side all the way down to the block of rights and Trotskyites. That's the final focus to complete the Stalin's purges. Again, you want to get these done as quick as possible because it's also going to minimize the number of advisors, negative penalties, generals that get purged and everything like that. It's also going to minimize the chance of your civil war happening, which I'll touch on the exact mechanics of this a little bit later. Let's start off with this focus for now. The other big thing which we're going to have to focus on getting is the lessons of war focus. Now, to get this, you need to have rehabilitated military and desperate measures. And if you have a look at this focus here, you must be at war with a major nation. So essentially you need to wait for Germany to declare war on you before you can do this. And then you need to wait 365 days, a whole year, before you can do lessons of war. And what Lessons of War will do is it will essentially get rid of the negative effects that are experienced by the Red Army focus. Minus 15% division org alone is pretty crippling to the way your soldiers are going to fight, especially against a strong Germany that's going to have control over most of Europe. So that's the probably second main focus that we need to go for. Now, there are cooldowns for a lot of these Stalin purge focuses. So essentially what we're going to focus on while we're waiting for those to cool down is we're going to come over to the left-hand side. Now, the 5-year plan, you need more than 100 factories to be able to complete that. So get these first two done. And then we are going to go down to the foreign experts and getting our 5th research slot. So as the Soviets, you only start off with 3. Sorry, tell a lie. We get our 4th research slot. And then once we get that, for our researchers, so the first 2 you're going to go for are your basic machine tools and your electrical engineering. You want to be really focusing on your industry stuff. Don't worry too much about your air force or your tank techs or anything else. The main things that you really want to build up are your industry, because that's your main strength as the Soviet Union. So you need to take advantage of it. Now, the other thing that you're going to do to start off with is come in and research armored trains. Now, recently they've updated the game where these actually give air attack. And one of the best ways for Germany to cripple you, particularly in a multiplayer game, is through the logistics strike air mission. So having armored trains being built from the beginning of the game is at least going to make that a bit more costly for them. They're not going to basically be able to bomb you for free. In terms of our industry, you are going to build civilian factories pretty much exclusively up until about 1939, 1940. Always try to build them in the states that have got the highest level of infrastructure, so they build faster. At the start of the game, it's like a snowballing effect, so only focus on civs. We will sprinkle in some military factories maybe in a year or two just to get some of our sort of support equipment type stuff going for a few armies that we'll need. But yeah, for the start, just focus on your civilian factories only. Your main goal here is going to be to keep an eye on the Germany player and what their factory count is, particularly with their civs, and you kind of want to have about equal to or slightly greater civs than Germany if you can help it. That's pretty much the main goal. So you can use that as a bit of a metric. Again, you'll need the low resistance DLC to access this intel network, but yeah, we are going to develop a spy network, but we're not going to do it right now. We want to save our civilian factory construction or our IC, sorry, the use of those civilian factories for building more civilian factories. We won't leave it too long to build a spy network because you want to make it also harder for Germany to go ahead and put their collaboration governments on you. But their focus early on is going to be for France and Poland if they're a good Germany player. So it's not super urgent for you to do right at the beginning of the game. For your production, you are essentially going to want to have this kind of layout. We're also going to delete our light tanks. Shocker to some people, I know, but you aren't going to worry about building them at the beginning of the game. You're going to want to have about 3 factories each on your trucks, trains, support equipment. You want to have about 3 on artillery. We'll increase some of these later. But the main thing is you want to have a decent amount of military factories on your guns. Again, another one of your strengths as the Soviets is your ridiculous amount of manpower, and you just need guns in hands, honestly, to cover off the massive front lines we're going to have. Our defensive tactic is going to require a lot of divisions, and they're just going to be weak divisions, and I'll show you why it works later. In terms of your navy, just to mention too, there are some plain lines down the bottom of your production tree. Just remember to delete them. Your navy, delete it, keep it, it matters not at all. If you are going to deploy your navy though, just go ahead and click your deploy target base and set it to Leningrad. Otherwise, by default, they will deploy in the Black Sea. And once Turkey remilitarizes the straits, you will not be able to get them out. By that token as well, when you are merging your fleets, you can either pull your navy out now. I like to leave the Black Sea one in here just on strike force, just so Romania doesn't try to naval invade you. Those ships will honestly be more than enough. But then what you can do as well is just merge the rest of your fleets together. And this is actually your Baltic fleet in Leningrad. And that's also going to help prevent the German player from getting as easy naval invasions on you later in the game. Don't forget to bring your air force all together. Just pop them in Moscow, and once they arrive, merge them together and exercise them until they are like veterans. Now, just to show you now, because I've had some people in my previous videos getting confused with my division design. So the main template, I always do the crossed guns, just so I know which is which. And then for your NKVD divisions, we're going to give them the rook symbol. They're basically going to be our port defenders. Don't forget to make your cavalry your garrison template as well. As the Soviets, you do have quite a few occupied territories later on. Set it to local police force as well. Now, what we have here with our army, we've taken all of our infantry and our cavalry, converted them to the same template. That's going to give you... Oh, and I also took, I think, the mechanized division, which is in your tank groups. That will give you 4 perfectly even armies. Just go ahead and pop them on a front line here. It doesn't matter. Exercise them till they're fully trained. We've got our NKVD divisions, which again, they're going to be our fallback troops. So you can basically split these guys in half. You can have half of them on port defense up in Leningrad. We'll put them all along here. Make sure you cover off the Baltic countries so you don't forget to defend their ports later on. And then these ones down here, just cover off the Black Sea. Now, it's important to note as well, obviously, historically, the Soviets had quite a lot of troops over in the Far East. You don't need to do that in this. It's Hearts of Iron, it's scripted, you know what's going to happen. You don't need troops over on the border here with Japan. So you can just focus all of your troops over in the east. Now, one front line, which I would encourage you to defend, is the Finnish one, because I can count the amount of times that I've forgotten about this front line. Well, I mean, I can't count the amount of times because I'm an idiot and I've forgotten it a lot. So make sure you have the Finnish border defended. There's going to be the first war with Finland and then the continuation war later on. So make sure you've always got this frontline garrison, regardless of what time it is. You don't need to worry about any of these other borders down here. Don't worry about assigning yourself any generals, any admirals. I mean, there's no Air Force ones, but also don't elect any chief of the army, navy, or air force. The reason why is as the purges start happening, which you'll see shortly, those advisors could potentially be culled, and you're basically just wasting that political power. So just sit on it until the purges are complete. You'll end up getting plenty of XP for your doctrines later on. They also cost a lot right now, and then as the purges continue, they will likely end up costing more. So just sit on that for the start, and then you'll be able to catch up on that later. But for now, that's all the early setup, and you can essentially just play the game and go through. I'll stop and show you guys as different events pop up, but let's get going. Now, when we have completed the center focus, this will pop up in your decisions tab, the political paranoia menu, or gauge, whatever you want to call it. You can hover over it here and you can see the different effects. So essentially random purges will occur over 25. Now it can be worth to keep it under there. To be honest, when the random purges happen, you can basically just opt for the Navy options as much as you can if that appears. Your Navy does not matter as the Soviets. So they can basically be a free way to get rid of the negative effects of the purges. Basically the purges can happen where a general, admiral, or someone in the Air Force will get purged, or one of the branches will suffer negative effects. So always pick the Navy if you can help it. Now, the main thing is though, you want to keep this political paranoia menu or percentage under 75. So the higher it gets, the more likely there is for a purge to happen. So over 75, you can see here. However, a civil war can also trigger the higher it gets. It used to be over 75, the civil war would trigger. I think it might be a little bit higher now, but just to be safe, always keep your paranoia under 75. Now, the best way to do it is you can click on this satisfactory production reports. This is a one-time use thing. You can do the inspection in the administration, but basically the best way to do it is for the inspection in the army or the Navy. Again, sorry, do the Navy one because that will purge an admiral, and then it will basically reduce your paranoia by 10, and it's not really that much of an effect for you. Once you've completed the electronic engineering, rather than going for the next research thing, come along and get your construction speed. Usually I would say it's not that big of a priority, but as the Soviets, you want to snowball as quick as you can. So getting that construction speed is important. Once your armored trains are over, or researched rather, then you can go across to your mechanical computing. After you do that, I would go for the first radio tech, because you're going to be sending volunteers to Spain. Helps a little bit, and it's also nice to get the radio techs before you get boosts later on. But then, yeah, again, you pretty much want to assign your 3 research slots to your industry, going for dispersed and your improved machine tools and everything, just down as far as you can go before the penalties get too crazy. I'm not going to touch too much on the MIOs, but there will be a lot of pop-ups because you are producing a lot of gear. Once you get your first 150 political power, yes, I've gone over a little bit. So you have the option of either going to partial mobilization or going to free trade. Now, if we go to free trade, that is going to increase our construction speed, our factory research, as well as our research speed, as well as our factory output. And it will essentially reduce. So if the best way to see what the benefit's going to be, for example, you see this factory is going to be complete on the 27th of October. If we go to free trade, you can come back in now to be done on the 18th of October. So savings about 10 days. Now, if we reload back to where we were before and we go to partial mob instead, you can see that we've gotten quite a lot more access to quite a lot more civilian factories. It's now going to be finished on the 27th of July rather than October. So that's about 2 months ahead, as well as having a brand new line there. It's reduced our consumer goods from about 38% down to 27%. So this obviously looks like the better option. However, we are 4 war support percentages, whatever, however you would say that, away from being able to go to war economy. In this instance, it's actually better off going to free trade now, because once the Spanish Civil War kicks off, we can send an attaché to Republic in Spain, and then that will allow us to go up to war economy. So once you go to free trade, you want to basically sit on all your political power and your command power. Don't use any of it. That's another reason why we don't get the commanders. Just basically sit on all your political power and your command power, and then you will be able to send an attaché and go to war economy pretty much immediately. The first purge is over, so you can see here which advisors are going to get purged. Again, another good reason to not go ahead and elect any advisors early on, because look, you may simply select one by accident, which will get his head lopped off. Now, if we go into the political focuses tree, you can see that we actually can't go any further down here because we need to wait 175 days from this previous one. So what you are going to do instead is you're going to go for the Comintern focus and the addressing internal affairs, because these are both going to give you, well, this one's going to give you stability. It's also going to give you access to these 3 focuses: the New Soviet Woman, NKVD Primacy, which will give you an extra operative slot, which we'll need later, as well as the Agropop decisions, which are super strong and we'll touch on soon. First up though, we're going to go for the internal affairs. Our stability is a little bit low and I don't like it. I know I said earlier that we want to go for our research slots. We could technically go for this one now, but again, we are quite weak just based on our stability and everything. Also, if we try to go for our industry, we simply don't have enough factories to go any further past this 5-year plan focus. So we're better off going for these other sort of shorter 35-day focuses, help us build up a little bit. This one in particular, military advisors to Spain. This one is excellent. Once the Spanish Civil War starts, we'll definitely do this straight away. The Spanish Civil War has kicked off, so we can boost our relations with the Republicans for a little bit. You only need to be plus 20 opinion here, and then you can stop improving, save yourself the political power. And then addressing internal affairs is done, which has given us 50 bonus political power. If we go for the Comintern, that's going to give us another 50 political power and give us access to the military advisors in Spain, which is going to maximize our time that we're going to get some free army XP. So we'll do that focus there too. We can go ahead and send them the attaché, stop improving relations. Now we have 57% war support, and as soon as we get that extra 150, which by the time this focus is done, we'll have it, we can go straight into war economy. Just a reminder to keep checking in on the political paranoia gauge as well, just make sure it doesn't creep too high. And now the Comintern focus is done. Okay, so we're a little bit short, but to be honest, it's not really worth waiting out and holding your political power for free trade. You want that bonus that you get, because not only is it your construction, but also your factory output and research speed. Again, those sorts of things tend to snowball. Look, we just wait a little bit longer, we can go straight onto war economy, and we're kind of getting the best of both worlds, if that makes sense. So again, just to demonstrate the benefit, we've currently got, what, I can't do maths, 23 active civilian factories. We'll go over onto war economy. It's basically just given another full line of production here, which is awesome. Now, these sorts of events will pop up time to time, the anti-saboteur campaigns. So the top option will decrease air XP gain, increase the accidents chance, all that jazz, but it will reduce political paranoia by 20. The bottom one will cost us political power and increase the political paranoia. So generally, I would say always go for the top one. By doing this, you won't have to spend political power on any of these decisions over here, especially if it's anything for the Air Force or the Navy. It doesn't matter so much. The Army's most important. Your Air Force is then secondary. So just take those decisions, keep that paranoia as low as you can. Once your military advisors to Spain is complete, just keep an eye on this focus. So about 70 days before we can do this focus here. So that's pretty much going to be 2 of these 35-day focuses. Let's go for the agripop first. What I'm also going to do, just so I don't forget, I'm just going to go ahead and up my military factory count on all of these different lines. So 5, 5, 5, 5 and 5, just easy to remember. It'll give you enough equipment that you need later on. And then what we're going to do shortly is we'll start trickling in some military factories just to get a bit of extra production going. The AA especially, it's a bit more expensive and takes a while to build enough for your army. It's not going to be on every division, but it's just good to have here ready so you don't forget. With our next batch of 150 political power, we're going to go for the captain of industry. Remember, we're going to be building civilian factories for a long time. So you want to maximize your construction of them. Just keep queuing them up in your high infra states. Now your second purge will come through, and that's going to reduce your political paranoia by 50, which is huge because we were sitting at 70% right now. I was keeping an eye on that. Just don't come at me in the comments. Once that's done, there are a couple more focuses you can come down and do. This one you still need, like, this is what the cooldown's for. So come down here, just go down as far as you can. Once you're blocked, then what we're going to do is we are going to come over and start doing these 2 focuses. That way we're ready to do the 5-year plan as soon as that's done. At the same time, we're going to be doing these focuses coming down for our research slots. Once you start getting a bit of equipment coming in as well, you can go ahead and train yourself up a 24 stack of your primary infantry template. This is where the decisions can be a little bit tricky. So we're at 32 political paranoia right now. This is going to reduce our army XP gain. It's also going to increase our training time for a year. We're not going to be at war for a year or more anyway, so it's probably worth taking that now. However, if it was getting a bit closer to, 1940, not sure why you'd be doing the purge that late anyway, but then it might be worth taking that slight paranoia increase and offsetting it with some of these decisions. One change we're going to do as well with our mountaineer template, we're just going to remove one of the mountaineer battalions and add in a line of artillery over here. If you want it to be really silly and make them bigger later on, you can always do that, give yourself more room for support. But yeah, look, that's fine. This pop-up is another one that you want to just take note of, disloyalty to the NKVD. So you want to purge this guy, the top one. So it will reduce your stability a little bit, but it does give you nice bonuses to your spy agency. Now that will reduce your overall political paranoia by a significant amount too, but it does mean that it's actually going to increase a lot faster as well. But it's always worth taking. Again, it shouldn't matter too much. Just keep an eye on it. Again, you should get rid of the purge purge if you just focus on doing these focuses first. Now here we go. That's done. 100 days. So that's a 70-day focus and a 35-day focus roughly. So what we're going to do is come over and do these two, especially this one first. It gives you 2 extra civs. That'll get you that little bit closer to the 100 factory mark that you need to continue down that tree. Now, this is an important one, especially if you are in a multiplayer game, just to not mess up what happens over in China. Now, Chiang Kai-shek is the leader of, if you don't know about the history of this, Chiang Kai-shek is the leader of the nationalist China, the yellow one. And essentially, he is captured by communist or communist-aligned forces. Now, you can go down this option and kill him. Basically, that means that China will declare war on communist China. This whole thing will devolve into a mess and Japan will basically take over that, no worries. What you should do is go for he is still needed. That's the historical decision. And then that will lead to the creation of the Chinese United Front, as you see there. And then that will let them hold out against Japan a little bit longer. Doesn't really affect you heaps, but for a multiplayer game, you got to make sure you're doing the right decisions. Now, we have gone ahead and finished most of the construction techs that we can at this stage, as well as our electrical ones. The Soviets are obviously big tank country. So at this stage, you want to research the medium tank chassis. Now, out of these, you can choose whichever you like. But yeah, essentially you want to research that because Germany will end up doing their focus, which one is it? Treaty with USSR. That's going to give you a research boost to the 1940s medium, which is your T-34s, which you're going to need later on. So if you get that done early, you don't have to worry about forgetting to do your research and being able to apply that boost to a later tech. Also, just chipping in to say, we've got our 5th army or of our standard infantry division template. Again, just put them on a fallback line. It does not matter where, we'll reassign them all later, but we're not going to train any more of these divisions for a while. What you're actually going to come in here, what you're going to do rather is come in here and duplicate this. Just give it a fun name. I'm going to call them the conscript division because they're the same as these guys, except they have no support. We'll also give them a new icon there. So these guys are just the star of the Soviet Union. We are also going to increase their combat width up to 20. We're going to do the same thing for these guys as well. Sit them around 20 width. Look, you can keep them at 18, whatever you think the best combat width is, you go nuts. I like 20. But then what we're going to do is we are going to start training up these guys and we're basically just going to keep continually deploying 24 stacks. That's why you need all that infantry equipment production. Also worth going for the armor techs for your tanks as well. From here with your techs, you want to go sort of for the tank support stuff. Go ahead and get the engineers as soon as you can as well. Maintenance companies are also worth it. You are a tank nation, so getting the tank support sort of companies are well worth doing. We're also going to go for anti-tank and our artillery, as well as AA, of course. Like you need to focus on all supports. It's a bit difficult here, especially when you don't have the research slots. And then for your Air Force, we are going to go for the improved small and medium airframes. The small's definitely the priority. They are cheaper to produce. And then you're going to want to get your survivability studies, range improvements, engine 3. Heavy MGs are well worth it. And you don't need to worry about armor-piercing bomb locks or the naval stuff. Don't worry about heavy bombs early either. The main thing is just to go for the improved small airframe and your engines 3. Now, we will be rushing them once we get our extra research slots. But right now, you want to focus on that other stuff with your tanks and artillery and all that. And to help with your research of your aircraft, if you come into the Air Force Command, once you have at least 50 air XP, you can go into the Spirit of the Air Force, get industry liaisons. Basically makes all of your aircraft techs 15% faster to research. And then on the other hand, to be honest, I think going for centralized control is the best. It gets you a lot more detection for your fighters, which you're basically trying to minimize the enemy CAS as much as you can. Again though, find what works for you. Why not? Again, your Navy doesn't matter, but we will be swapping over and going for Grand Battle Plan. That's the key of this strategy. And we just have 100 factories, so we can finish the 5-year plan. That's going to give us a few more civilian factories. It'll give us an advisor, which you might use later. You may not. It's up to you. What we're also going to do here is we are going to queue up just a single line of military factories. Pretty much got about 5, I don't know. Let's just say we need about 10 mils or so to get mainly just to get some anti-aircraft production going. So we'll go for that spot, and then let's also go for this one. So we'll just drag one of these lines to the top so they're being worked on, and that's just going to help get your equipment going while still giving you a decent amount of focus on your civilian factories too. See, look at this. Things like this are a godsend. Oh, what's that? Negative effects to my Navy? Could not care less. It's reducing my paranoia by 20%. Take it. Now, I've actually made a mistake and I've gone over the the time here for the focuses. So I've made my own worst enemy. But yeah, again, make sure you go for that. Now, when you get to this as well, the military conspiracy, this is where you're going to create your spy agency. You'll see the reason why in a minute. Once your spy agency is built, the upgrades you're going to go for in order are localized training centers, S-pills, form department, and then you're going to go for the interrogation techniques. And then after that, I mean, look, invisible link's a fun one. Honestly, whatever you want after that. We basically, passive defense is really good too as the Soviets, but the main ones are those first four in that order. Now, this is a big one as well, the trial of the generals. Look at, you can see these famous names all getting culled here, but it does really reduce your paranoia again. And then what we're going to do, again, there's another cooldown for the next focus. We are going to go for Behead the Snake. This is going to reduce your paranoia by a lot, give you an operative slot, as well as a unique operative and mission. Around this stage too, when we've got 150 political power, you can go ahead and give yourself the limited conscription law, I guess. Around 600,000 is weirdly low for the Soviets, and we're going to need a lot more than that. So don't feel bad about upgrading now, even though we're well away from war. Okay, I accidentally dismissed the pop-up, but basically there's another option to fire the leader of the NKVD. Again, you pretty much always take them because they just give you like different bonuses to your spy agency. But yeah, always take them. It reduces your paranoia, which is really needed. Now, if you time it right as well, we've got our first operative that we can recruit. You've always got this Richard Sorhe guy, but you can also come in and recruit a German operative, and they are the ones that you're going to want to get. Pretty much all game, every time it pops up, just recruit the German operative. Behead the Snake is done. So the focus we're going to do after that, honestly, from here, come back over and go for your foreign experts, work your way down to this research slot. And then after you do that, come back over and go for the other research slot. So that's basically what we're going to do with our focuses here. Also, once you do the foreign experts focus, at this stage, you want to come over and boost relations. Whoops, not a war goal. That's the wrong thing. You want to boost relations with the US. You want that to be over 50. Now, the, what's it called again? Behead the Snake focus, the one with Trotsky on it. Yep, Behead the Snake is done. If you come back into your spy agency, you can see that we now have these two missions here, subtle assassination or raid Trotsky's villa. If you guys know anything about history, you know that Trotsky met a very, very grisly end. And the subtle assassination is actually the historical one. It is pretty much guaranteed to succeed, or you can do the raid Trotsky's villa. Has a higher risk of failure, but it is faster. It's only 60 days. I'm a bit of a sook, and I prefer to just go for the subtle assassination, but you essentially want to put your spy in here and just have them building up their network as quick as possible. Now, what the assassination is going to do is if you come into your spirits, it's going to get rid of this Trotskyite plot. Now, obviously with your cipher, have that chipping away at the Germans. With your air doctrine too, just a quick rundown over the doctrines. We will be going for battlefield support, and then again, we'll be going for grand battle plan. Now, this is a tricky one because I accidentally forgot to go for the military conspiracy focus earlier and ran out a little bit. Usually you would do this Academy of Sciences, and then it would be about 70 days. It would line up quite well. So yeah, usually the timings work out very neatly. Oh, now this is a tough one. So we're at 62% currently. We have no political power to go ahead and bail ourselves out. And this is going to reduce our political power by 10% for a year, reduce our construction speed, increase our advisor costs. Pretty much if we go up to 72%, there's no guarantee that another event might not appear. Look, if I were you, I probably wouldn't risk this. You know what? And because of that, I'm not going to risk it. I've got to play like I would recommend to you guys. All right, we have our fourth research slot. And what we are going to do at this stage, it's going to seem quite crazy, but we are going to start rushing our fighters here. Now, wow, okay, that's going to give us an extra 10 days. But I want the MiG designer to get the bonus there. And then look at this as well. This is one of the general purges. Let's just go back to our political power here. It's quite high. So either we can purge Zhukov or, which if you guys don't know, Zhukov is one of your best generals. Where is he up here? I mean, he's cowed right now, which will be removed once we finish Lessons of War. But the guy that's accusing him, Semyon Bodoni, he's an absolute shitter. He's a level 1 field marshal. So we'll fuck him off, and then that will reduce our political paranoia a little bit. And then we can go for the production reports again. At this point, we're getting to the pointy end of the stick. We really need this to be done. Again, this is the final focus, which will end the purge. So don't try to reduce it really low here. Just keep it, you know, around 50%. All right, it's finally done. the third Moscow trial. So a bunch of advisors have been culled. We lost our captain of industry, but that's fine because we got a decent chunk of use out of him. And then from here, you are kind of free with the focuses. Another thing which comes around about now is this option here. So you can choose which industry to specialize in. This one used to be so good. 15% consumer goods. You could basically get the Soviets down to about 0% consumer goods, which was pretty broken. So you know what? Probably not the worst thing they patched that out. It's always like at this stage, the military one is good, gets you extra output. And by the time you do start researching your military or building your military factories, having that boost is quite nice. So that's probably what I'd recommend to go for. And Trotsky is dead. Absolutely clobbered to death, that poor guy. And then if we come back in here, we should be able to see the Trotskyite plot purged. It's reduced the penalties from that focus quite a lot. So even more political power coming through, which is great. Now with your spy agency, you can go for collabs now if you really, really wanted to. What I think is worth doing a lot more is just stealing blueprints from Germany. Also, again, the same vein that you can, in the same vein that you can start getting generals now, you can also go for different advisors. So feel free to go for your chief of army, chief of the Air Force, start getting some of that XP coming through, send an attaché to nationalist China, do sorts of things like that. Because now the purge is over, you're not going to lose any more of those troops. Or now that the purge is over, you're not going to lose any more of those advisors. When you start researching your improved small airframe, you should really start researching the Engines 3 at the same time. Because yeah, otherwise there's no use researching the improved airframe if you don't have the engines to go with it. We've also completed the 1940s medium tank chassis. So what we're going to do is start creating a design for that to build, which we'll cover off in a minute. But now what we're also going to do while the engines are researching, these other research slots as they complete, we'll just go into our air tab, we'll start researching the heavy MG survivability studies and the range improvements. And then pretty much once that's all done, we'll be ready to start producing improved small airframes. Also, some of you may be tempted to do the improve the Stalin line or the Molotov line focuses. They're not worth doing it. Essentially, look, in single player, maybe a little bit, but in multiplayer, definitely not, because an adequate Germany player will have the Fortress Buster. I think it's Manfield, I think. I don't know. One of their generals actually starts off with the Fortress Buster trait, so it kind of makes them useless. It's a waste of a focus. You can do it for flavor later once you've done all the other important stuff, but not super vital. Speak of the devil, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. So the historical focus or the historical decision is to always sign the treaty. Especially in a multiplayer game, you most likely will have to as part of the game rules. But what this will also do is, where is it? Here we go. So this is also going to give you the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact spirit. So it's going to be removed after the 16th of June 41. Germany cannot declare war on you prior to this date. So this is your timer. You've got until the 16th of June 1941 to do everything in your power to be as ready as possible for when Germany invades. So that's going to be building military factories, building up your army, setting up our defenses, which I'll show you how to do shortly. So we pretty much want to make sure that we're set and ready to go by then. Another thing you're going to want to make sure that you do is the political paranoia menu will have this decision here, loosen prohibition, this essentially. So this is going to remove the anti-Soviet military thinking, like basically the negative penalties that you have from the purge, it's going to get rid of them. So you always want to take this decision, leave it checked, and you can't complete that until a year after the purge is done anyway. So as soon as that appears, make sure you take that. Claims on the Baltic is done and it's gone straight through. We can now do the claim on Bessarabia, which we are going to do that one first. You really want to do that before Romania winds up in the faction Germany. Sometimes they can reject it. The claim on the Baltic focus will give you access to these decisions. So I always start off with Estonia, then Latvia, then Lithuania, because the map looks nicer that way. But for 75 political power, you will basically send them an ultimatum and you'll annex them for free. Just like that, free Estonia. You'll also get a heap of infantry equipment and guns and everything else from these guys as you annex them. And you'll find that your factory count will explode a little bit as well. Another tech that you're going to want to get around this point in time is also the, what are these called? Mechanized. Yes, you're going to want to get the mechanized techs because you're going to want to have a mix of medium tanks and mechanized tanks in your tank division. Around now is when you can start building a lot more military factories too. Germany will kind of snowball at this stage. We've got 140 civs. They're going to end up with about the same as us once they take out France. So we really want to start building up some tank divisions around now so you can start adding those into your construction queue around this point in time. And just like that, Poland is ours and Latvia is ours and Bessarabia will also be ours. We'll go for Leningrad now. We should get this. There we go. Done. Now, in a moment, once we take over Lithuania, Lithuania, we'll start setting up our defense. We'll just, yeah, look, you can't do everything, so I've had to neglect some of the infantry equipment. But yeah, the main thing, get your artillery techs up because they are what you need to improve the cannons on your tanks and everything. But yeah, essentially, if you can break through up here and encircle these troops in the south, should have a clear run through to their capital. All right, when this decision pops up, Finland offers concessions. Again, the historical decision is to take the top one. And I would also recommend that too, because what that's going to do is it's going to get, like, Finland's going to keep most of their territory. You still need to obviously garrison this front line with them, but it does also mean that you only have a one tile border with what will end up being German Norway. Because if you forget about this northern part, it can be incredibly annoying. And we can now set up our defense. So what I'm going to show you guys is the defense in depth strategy. And it is pretty simple, but it does take quite a lot of clicking. So bear with me a moment. The first thing we're going to do, this full army field marshal group, you can go ahead and click this button here, by the way, next to the field marshal portrait to collapse the selection. So you can only, like, we're going to be commanding this group as a field marshal army anyway. So the first thing you're going to do is go along and starting right up at the Baltic Sea, just draw a front line all the way along your border here, because this is where the border is going to remain until the war starts. And you also can't just, like, if I try to draw a front line, because these guys aren't in a faction yet, we're not at war with them, I can't draw a front line across the whole area. So a field marshal fallback line is the easiest way to arrange that. And this is where it gets a little bit micro intensive. So I'm going to show you this way. If you don't want to do it, then I'll also show you like another way that you can kind of do it in a similar way. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we've got all of this territory that we can lose before we'll capitulate. Even if the Germans have a full collab government on us, we can lose Leningrad, Stalingrad, and Moscow without capitulating. Like, that's how far back they can push you. What we're going to do is make every step as costly as possible for them, with a few exceptions. Essentially, in Hearts of Iron, we all know that different terrains have different bonuses and penalties. So the hardest terrains to push through are pretty much anything other than plains. So hills, mountains, well, there's not a lot of them, but forests, cities, marshes, all of these sorts of areas give you a varying amount of defensive bonuses. So what we're going to do is have these divisions, make sure they're not assigned to any order. Make sure they've all got that red arrow or red exclamation next to them. Starting at the top here, beginning around here as well. Just select 3 at a time and just manually right click them all into these different areas, which are I'm just going to call them like a unique terrain that's like anything that's not a plains tile essentially. And we are going to cover this whole area with these shitty conscript divisions. Also, if you're finding it hard to keep track of where you're moving them, simply click on your army group and you'll see where the arrows are leading. So we've got to fill out all these ones still. Even in areas like this, for example, we are going to leave the plains tiles. We don't get any bonuses for defending them. So we're literally just going to move past them. Leave those plains. If they want to push into that tile, that's fine because our troops will be waiting at the next forest or marsh or wherever that they make it to. Now, there are a few exceptions to this. We are going to defend any tiles, like for example, this is a plains tile, but it has a supply hub on it. So we are going to defend that. Or, you know, like for example, this one has an airport. So we're going to defend that. Basically anything of value to the Germans, we're going to have soldiers there waiting to greet them. Sometimes I just need to pause fast forward for a moment, let the troops move into where they're going to be defending, and then we can continue again. And be tricky to keep track, if I'm being honest. But once you've pretty much covered across like the whole sort of front line, you've got a bit of a line going there. Also behind these rivers, even though these are plains tiles, if they're pushing from the south, like they're going to be attacking across the river. So put your troops on the other side of that. Doesn't matter if these troops get all mixed up, you're not going to really be commanding them anyway. Again, if you click off and you have forgotten which troops you're up to, any with the yellow arrow, you've already assigned. So you can just go back, select them again, and yeah, basically just go through doing this. So we've got our next focuses that we can go for. I'm going to work my way down positive heroism in this tree here. But I'm also going to go for cohesion first. By far the best one. It gives you 5% extra org, which is one of the most important things in your division. And then this gives it another 5% as well. So yeah, well worth going down these two here. And then, you know, you can also work away at some of these other reorganization focuses and everything. But yeah, essentially we'll start down that here. At the same time as well, you can see all of these military factories in the Urals and everything that I talked about earlier. Once they're done, then we'll do the Tankograd focus to get ourselves some free military factories. I've also started some production of mechanized equipment. And right about now, let me just double check my text. Yep, so now we're going to make our plane designs and our tank designs. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying these designs work well for me, especially in single player. Multiplayer might be a bit different, and also metas change. In, you know, a couple of months, this design may not be viable anymore, or may not be as good as it is now. So before you come at me in the comments, just keep that in mind. You can also use your own designs, experiment, try different things, see what works for you. But for my small plane modules, or my small airframes, I like to go for armor plates, self-sealing tanks, and then let's see if we can do... No, so drop tanks are too expensive. Honestly, not the end of the world. You can also... I'm actually going to drop off the heavy machine guns. We'll do drop tanks. They've recently changed the weights of some of these things, so that's why I'm a little bit all over the place. All right, yep, cool, we'll do that. So 2 cannons, 4 heavy MGs, 2 heavy MGs, engine 3, armor plates, self-sealing tanks, and drop tanks. That's going to be our small fighter design. Then for our heavy fighter, we are going to go double cannon, 3 double cannons, the double engine 3, again, the armor plates and the self-sealing tanks. And then we're actually going to go for radio navigation, which is going to reduce our night penalty. And then we don't have yet the interception 1 or the detection 1, but the night penalty is very helpful. And then from here, you are maxed out with your weight and thrust ratio. So the reason I like heavy fighters so much is they have enough air attack that enemy bombers will get pretty much decimated, and even enemy fighters as well. Like, you put this thing up against their light airframes, the amount of attack they have as well as the air defense it's quite a good ratio. Like, if you have a look at our fighter design, it has a significant amount of air attack, and that's squeezing as much on as we can. Most AI designs are going to use light machine guns. Their air attack's not going to be anywhere near the defense of our heavy fighters. So we'll start off 2 lines of these, and it is important to have aircraft. So I am going to just put 15 factories on that, and we'll go for 10 factories of the heavies. The heavies are honestly primarily for defense, to stop them bombing us or logistic striking our territory, and the fighters are for air supremacy. For the tank design, it's pretty standard. Again, same as the planes, things change. This isn't the most optimal design, it just works for me. For your standard T-34 tank, you want to go for the highest soft attack. So the medium howitzer is the way to go. We're also going to build tank destroyers and SPAAs. For SPAA is optional, but I like it because it keeps the hardness up. We'll add on the radios. We'll go for a small cannon, and then chuck on the sloped armor. And how are we going for reliability? Pretty good. Let's go for, yeah, look, let's put armor skirts on for now. Again, feel free to do what works for you. We'll go for welded, and that's pretty good. Obviously make sure our pitches are pretty. Yeah, 40 soft attack, quite good. Decent amount of breakthrough, good amount of armor. We can add a little bit extra armor on. I like to have my tanks at about 8 kilometers an hour with their speed. It's twice the speed of a standard infantry division, so you'll find making encirclements are quite easy. Yet you're not sinking so much speed into it that you're sacrificing other areas. So yeah, 80% hardness is pretty good. 80 armor, that's actually really good. One thing just in preparation for the war, I'm trading with the United Kingdom for some of my aluminium. Just go to this C zone and click blocked. If we go back to our trade route, you can see that's still going to export to Japan. That's fine, not our problem. But our imports are going to come around the north here. And to be honest, you could even make like, if we want it to come out of the UK on the other side, you can even block like these 2 ports as well. Oh, this is not working. There we go. And now it's coming in around the other side. Just to make sure that we're not really like at risk of, yeah, there we go. Just to make sure we're not really at risk of Germany being able to convoy raid all of our stuff. The other thing too, we can block off the Aegean Sea, and once more, just making sure that none of our supply lines are coming through around the other side. You can press F4 to see a supply map as well, because sometimes the supply will do weird things. So yeah, that's all sweet. We don't need to worry about anything else apart from that. Our frontline division is pretty good. We are just going to add on anti-tank as well. So we're going to have AA, Arty, engineers, and anti-tank. And look, I know the org is a little bit low, but but please just be patient. That will increase with our doctrines. Now, also, when you've got a free advisor slot, either the popular figurehead for the stability will be very helpful. Being near 100% gives you a lot of bonuses. However, the elusive gentleman is good as well, because the more spies, the better, as you will see later on. Spies are actually a core part of this strategy, so if you don't have the La Resistance DLC, I would strongly encourage you to get it. Also, don't forget to upgrade your tanks and stuff as you research like new modules. So I just got the improved medium howitzer. I'm going to upgrade, this is the wrong design, silly me. Just got the improved medium howitzer, so we'll slap that onto our T-34. We are going to have to drop one. Actually, you know what? Instead of taking away armor, we'll just add an engine. It does make it, again, a bit more expensive, but it is still, you know, a lot of soft attack on there, so it's all right. What you also want to just keep an eye on too is as you get more mills, you're going to have to start trading for more resources, of course. If you go to your construction tab, you hover over this up here, your factory count, you can see you're getting, like, you can see your total input, like your total factories that you have, as well as the total amount in use. So basically, you can see that trade exports plus 24, that's how many civilian factories we're gaining from other countries because of the factories that or because of the resources they're trading with us. Then you can see trade imports minus 14. So that's how many factories we're putting out for the resources that we need to trade in. So essentially, we're in a net positive 10 civilian factories right now because of trade. Once that sort of balances out or starts to, you know, once the amount that you're putting out is a bit greater than what you're gaining from other countries, that's when you want to consider going from free trade down to export focus or limited exports. Now, the other thing that you are going to want to do too is make sure you've got supply to all of your supply hubs. So basically at least level 3. Okay, another thing that you can do, which you may be looking at this being like, what the frick are you doing with a interwar medium? Flame tanks, that is the short answer. And we're also going to smack an entrenchment on it. And that's literally all we have to do. So the development of Tankergrad just happened, and I don't know exactly how many mills we got, but I think we got the full 10, which is pretty awesome, to be honest. What's not awesome is the fact that we are now very much needing to switch to closed economy, or at least limited exports. This is another huge decision that pops up: non-aggression with Japan. Always go for peace. The last thing you want to do is have to go over and try to fight a defensive war against Japan as well. Now, we are at the point where we've done pretty much all the main focuses that we need to. From here, a few of the focuses you can do: the superior war machines gets you research boost towards the more advanced tank tech. So you will be able to go ahead and rush the 1943 medium, which is very good. You can do these ones if you want to. That's completely cool as well. Military reorg and going down and doing the rest of these is pretty sweet as well. These ones down the bottom, you can take your time and have a read through. You pretty much let loose here, to be honest. The Middle East diplomacy stuff lets you do the invasion of like Iran and Afghanistan and everything like that. So yeah, you can pretty much cut loose from here, do whatever you like. But yeah, the only thing I wouldn't do is like approach Germany. If you're going to do these ones, go down the anti-fascist stuff. Obviously, it's a historical game, of course. But yeah, look, just go nuts. I'm going to do the war machines. Now, once again, we're getting really close. So 16th of June, again, I should have done this a bit earlier, just slipped my mind. But what you want to do is put your spies along the front line you have with Germany, and you basically want to get them up to the maximum possible level of intel network. We already have a bit of a network in Berlin, so this will build up relatively quickly. The reason being, if we hover over here, let's actually go where we've got pretty much 100%. Yeah, look, that's fine. We'll show you here. So we've got 31% network strength in this state. So you can see that effects for the German Reich, max planning factor, minus 31%, and max entrenchment, minus 1.5. So basically what that means is when we get to 100% in this particular, like in these states along our border, then we are going to negate 100% of their planning bonus. So the reason for building forts here is the enemy can only attack, like let's assume that we hold our river tiles. They can only attack this tile from this one. They can attack this one from 2 tiles. They'll be able to get that sort of bonus, but at least our city will be more well defended. Even if they do take this tile, then they can't attack either of these two with more than one tile. They'll be able to attack this one, but again, it's a city, it's urban, and we'll have the fort bonus. So it's the only reason why I build forts here. Here we go. German continuation war, and Finland has also declared. Hence why it's important to make sure that you've got your your army up the north here. So what does this do? Well, firstly, obviously Germany attack us. Secondly, there are some extra things which pop up here in our agripop decisions. So 7% recovery rate, we'll take it. Extra factory output, that was there before. This one reduces training time and the minimum training level. We probably don't need that one if I'm being honest with you. I am going to take every hit of the hammer, every hit of the hammer hits the enemy. And I think as well, now what we can do with our main front line here, we can delete this. And no, we can't, because Germany, fuck, that's very annoying. Germany hasn't called their other minions in. We'll just put our front line back and hope that this doesn't ruin everything. It shouldn't. They're already where they should be. Now, we've got all of our rear guard troops pretty much covered. Pretty good coverage, even up here. Even if they do push back, like it's very hard for them to push up here. There's not a lot of supply. So the only weak spots are, I mean, kind of this a little bit, and probably around this area. But again, we are going to be training more and more troops constantly. We're just going to keep pumping them out, and we can collapse this again. So yeah, we actually are all fine at the moment. We'll get our air force up. Now, we have got 16 air wings. We'll just split that up. So now we've got a solid 20. We'll move 1,000 of them there, just have them in this air zone. And we don't have another 1,000 airport really nearby. We have Kiev, and Italy, there we go. Now they're all at war with us. So our front line, whoops, our front line can now be drawn. Now, again, you are very likely going to take losses at the beginning. They're going to push you back. The main thing to remember is to not be discouraged. Odds we push in Finland. One sec. So I always keep my mountaineers and my tank divisions in reserve. We are going to use them just to see if we can knock Finland out of the war, because if we don't have to deal with them, that's going to be a bloody good day. We'll bring our meager amount of CAS over. Finland doesn't have an air force. And we've got our heavy fighters. We'll move them a little bit closer. Finnish have their moddy tactics. That's very annoying. We are going to move our air force over to cover this air zone off a bit more. And now all you're doing, you're going to go down to 3 speed, and you're just going to monitor the front line. So any of these areas that they're pushing through, you're just going to make sure that they're not getting any encirclements, sort of monitoring your air force and what they're doing. Whoops, these are our strat bombers. We'll just put them in Poland. And yeah, you're just going to play the retreating game. Now, if this was a multiplayer game, this is where you would start getting lend-leased a metric shit ton of equipment from your American and British players. That is not so today. Okay. Prime example right here, Luau, this supply hub, very important for this area of the map that we're trying to defend. So we are just going to keep reinforcing that tile. Even though we have to move these guys off that forest tile, doesn't really matter. We can lose these mountains. Again, we're doing a staggered retreat. We just don't want to lose the supply hub if we can help it. Now, the other cool thing there, we just completed military reorganization. We can do the desperate measures focus. Do not forget to do this. Yes, don't forget your little puppets. Not a lot of guns, but it's better than nothing. I'm going to keep them out of the war for now. Also, just in any areas, if you see your troops attacking, just get them to halt, select them, press H to halt. Also, circumstances like this, I mean, he was going to retreat anyway, but these guys are being beaten in their battle, get him to fall back. Even these guys, like, just have them fall back across that river. That's fine. They're already falling back, have him come back. We very likely are going to lose that supply hub. It is what it is. Up the north here, this is also a problem area, because again, they get their tanks broken through there. They can very quickly run away with it. And we're sinking some convoy. Well, Finland shouldn't have started shit, I guess. All right, so we did end up losing the supply hub, meaning our supply is properly cooked down here. We have neglected, when I say neglected, I mean forgotten to build our railway networks. So I'm just gonna pop them up to the top of the queue right now. And then if we are lucky, we should have the transport is the sibling of the Red Army, 15% faster construction speed for railway and infrastructure. That should help a lot of our supply issues we're having right now. I have done this before where I didn't forget to do my supply and they simply didn't even push me off the front line. So yeah, your supply makes a huge difference. Just having a quick look at the air war here. We are severely outnumbered. However, 200 fighters, that's how much we've lost, versus about 500 enemy planes in total. And if we have a look as well, we can see, so a lot of their AA, a lot of their support has been shot down by our AA. And then, yeah, their bombers too. So anti-aircraft guns must have on your forces. And right here as well, good example, retreat them out before they can get encircled. Oh, Finland wants an armistice. So that would give us some decent stuff there. However, look, in your single player game, there may be, in your multiplayer game, sorry, there may be rules against this. I'm not letting them off the hook. They simply should shouldn't have come after me here. All right, here's a prime example of how risky this front line can be. So what we're gonna do is reduce our front line back to about this spot. We're gonna stop these guys from advancing over there because we don't want any troops to get encircled up here. Basically, if we just surrender that part of, well, Lithuania or whatever it is, does not matter to us. We can give that up. Also, this is a good time to go through and give all of your generals, or your field marshals rather, the defensive doctrine trait, except for our offensive guy. Keep him there. You can also go through and spend the political power on ambusher for some of your guys if you have it. Yeah, good time to use that. All right, another key thing, when you get your spies, just make sure you're stacking them up on the front line and try to get that intel network to 100% because it will really stifle their attack if they can't get that planning bonus. And once again, I'm not sure why this has corrected itself. It absolutely should not. All right, desperate measures is done. Now we need to wait 1 year to do lessons of war. However, there are some other cool things that we can do here, such as adaptable army, penal battalions, and come down and get Smersh, which gets us even more operative slots. So we'll start off with this one for now. Oh, there we go. Finland has capitulated. Just as a bit of humiliation for them, we are going to take the vast majority of this. Actually, you know what? Nah, fuck them. We'll take it all. They can be inducted into the Soviet Union. See, this is where I start to go non-historical in these videos because, see, classic. Look at that. They automatic. How did the Finnish Navy get from Finland to the Black Sea? This makes no sense. I bet you they're down here too. Yep, they bloody are. Whatever. Now, we just need to be mindful of this Axis mob up here. So we are going to go ahead and keep these troops on their front line up there. Now, this is not important. You guys don't need to watch this. Also, at this point, we've got a pretty good defense in depth network. What we are going to do is, just to make it a little bit easier going forward, we are going to plop this guy on a front line. So just for context, these are more conscript troops that we're deploying. And we're just going to run this front line sort of through this main sort of area. Don't worry about it going yellow. There's plenty more troops to come from. And we're actually going to run like this. Yeah, we'll run up to there. We're not going to worry about this northern part. That is pretty much going to be our Stalin line right now. Just to make sure that we are going to win the air war, we'll have a quick look. So they've got 40 factories on planes, right? And then Italy's probably got, yeah, about 15. So we're just going to have a quick look. We're going to up our production of both of these, primarily our heavies though. And yeah, that should make us about even, and ours is superior. So we'll end up on top. We'll come out on top for sure. They've also got to contend with the US and the UK, so we'll keep that in mind too. So if we just have a bit of a look along the front line here, we can see mostly green bubbles, a couple of reds around here. Let's just see if we can move any of our spies up. Oh, we've actually launched the steel blueprints one again. That's fine. Look, this is where they're pushing a lot, so we'll just keep the intel network up there. Very interestingly, we have 50 BF-109s somehow, and I frankly don't really understand how we would have come into possession of them, but you know what? We'll take them. Captured equipment maybe? I don't know. But yeah, pretty much green bubbles all the way along. Down here, we did just lose a division, but we'll get these guys to escape out the port. Look, to be honest, it's bound to happen. You're going to get some troops encircled. You can't cover the whole front line. Also, we can just stop all of these troops, stop all of them exercising. That's fine. See, this is where the strength of the tactic comes in, because we've lost 500,000 to 800 or almost 900,000 German casualties. And as they're getting to this river line, they're coming up against a far larger number of troops. Even along here, like they're not really able to push a lot more than what they already have. They've not really made that much territory up. Even over here, like, look, if they did break through that river, they do have a lot of ground to cover. But at the end of the day, like, they do need to get across this, and it's very juicy, the number of divisions we have here. We actually just inherited some Mongolian and Tanatuvan troops, so we're going to layer them into our defense in depth here. So now at this point too, we can even start sort of reinforcing with some of these troops that have been pushed back. We can also start reinforcing the front line a little bit more. So any particular spots, like for example, quite a few divisions just chilling here. We'll move them up, reinforce that red bubble, probably leave these ones. Doesn't matter if this pocket gets pushed back, kind of rather move back across that river. But yeah, just everything we can to slow them down and inflict as many casualties as possible. So yeah, a 2-to-1 ratio for the Germans is not good for them. Very good for us. Don't forget to check your supply map as well. So for example, this supply hub is pretty stretched thin, and I think that warrants upgrading our supply line from Moscow to a level 4. These ones are okay. That one, look, they are a little red, but there's also, you know, only a limited amount you can do. Again, we are giving up all this territory. So look, another thing you can also do here. So our Air Force is taking a beating. They've got 3,000 fighters in this one region in eastern Poland. It's also the hardest for them to push in because of all this like swampy tiles. So I'm just splitting my Air Force, putting it in the north and the south. It's not necessarily going to shoot down as many of their planes, but it will give us their air supremacy in those areas, making that fight a little bit easier. And we can just back our heavy fighters off. Maybe we'll just put them on these southernmost zones or these rear zones just to give us a bit of cover there. This is another good one. Experts in camouflage gives us 5 more entrenchment. So currently we're sitting at 17, and if we find I don't know that we'll actually find a division which is fully entrenched with our main guys. Oh, here we go. This division gets a 70% defensive bonus. Where are they? This division has a 70% defensive bonus. These ones here, 34%. So without the engineers, it's, you know, it's a bit less, but it's still respectable. You know, I just went around and requested a lend-lease from a bunch of, interesting. Yeah, I just went around and requested a lend-lease from a bunch of different nations, and I probably got about 30,000 in total. So that's Sweden, the UK, the US, all those sorts of, like even Turkey chipped in a little bit. So don't forget to do that. Still well worth doing. You know, it's it takes a not very much of your time to go around. Maybe even Mexico will chip in, will they? No, look, it's fine. You never know your luck. This is a fun new thing. Knowledge of ball bearings will give us 8% cheaper fighters and other aircraft and stuff. I'm definitely taking that. No negatives there. Also, Germany attacking in winter has cost them almost 2 million casualties, and we've only lost about 750,000. So that's a fair trade. I'll take that. Now, another thing as well, you don't necessarily want to be using your tank divisions or even really like your special forces and stuff like that at this stage. You can kind of use them. I mean, I'm moving in my mountaineers here just to see if I can push them back across this river, which they're actually pulling back from. So let's see if we can't get them to push out. Yeah, easy as that. Just because I like to hold on this river line. If they do push me back, that's fine. But, you know, ideally I would not lose it. Can use it if there's a particular breakthrough. Like, for example, even this tile here, right? I could probably bring my tanks down. Just simply push them back off that spot. Just makes your defensive lines a little easier. But generally, I keep them in reserve for any unexpected naval invasions, paratrooper drops, you know, a particular country declaring war on me when you don't expect it. Look, anything can happen in this game, so better off just to be, you know, planning for contingencies. Advanced medium tank chassis. We are also going to rush for the modern tank just because it's so insanely strong. But yeah, I'm just going to take some time to go through pretty much the exact same design as what I had before. So yeah, bear with me a minute. I'll just quickly pop up the new designs on the screen so you can screenshot it if you want to go off that. This is my favorite part where the Germans just keep pushing against your lines. They've got, well, the bubbles are red for them, but it's fucking green everywhere for us. Yeah, the only drawback being our supply is still a little bit cooked, but we can easily go ahead and patch that up. Level 5 railroads, baby. This is also going to help. I have been a little bit slack with my spies this game because I've been pinching blueprints just to see if that's been very helpful. It really isn't. You're definitely better off using your spies to negate the Germans' planning bonus as much as you can. So just have them scattered around here, build that network right up, and then you'll be sitting pretty. Also, you can see that there is a small amount of enemy spy, I guess, presence here. So when we get our extra spy slot, once we can do Lessons of War through Smersh, we'll just go ahead and leave one back in Moscow to pinch some Germans. Just checking in again on the air war. Look, we have lost a lot of fighters, but we've shot down even more. Enemy air support, yeah, look, absolutely decimating them. Definitely coming out on top there. And if we check the intel network, they've got 44 factories. We've got about, look, 35 on our air. But again, like, let's check how many the UK have. They've got 55. The Americans would have more. So that's kind of all we need right now to really put up a decent battle. Now, what we're running into here as well is a situation where we have a lot of these, like, sort of, you know, rearguard troops that are just kind of scattered out across the front line, but in such a way that they're basically overstacking some areas, limiting the supply. So what we're now going to do is just assign them to the entire front line, and they'll spread out a bit more evenly. We still have, like, what, 2 more full armies in the fallback positions. So spreading these guys out, it's just going to give us a bit more of an even kind of distribution. Quick casualty check-in, 1.5 million for us, almost 5 million for them. Jeez. Damn, look at this. Look at the trades in the air war. It's insane. 4,000 to 1,500. See, this is all you really need to do. You just need to keep whittling them down until they're nothing. Just make sure we've got like full coverage across all the different air zones. They are attacking very hard down here in Ukraine. Redeploy over a little bit. Gonna have one TAC bomber. All right, now we have all green air everywhere. This is what we want. Also, the international marketplace has come in very handy with me being able to buy guns from people since they won't lend-lease me. It does hurt your industry a little bit, of course, but, you know, there are worse things to have happened. Oh, never mind. Thank you, UK. Let's see what the US will give us. Please, Daddy, Uncle Sam. Also, we can finally do Lessons of War, which is then going to remove the Cowed by Stalin trait for a lot of our generals and increase our org and XP gain. Also wanted to mention, once your front lines have stabilized a bit, you know, we're in March, it's sort of winter. Once your front lines have stabilized, it is worth building some extra supply hubs along the front. You can see a couple of extras that I've built, sort of here and here. Maybe, yeah, I think it was here and here. Maybe up here, I can't remember. Anyway, you want to build multiple supply hubs, just because when you do get to the point where you're going to want to attack, you're going to have a lot of troops here. We'll have to overstack a lot more. We'll get our tanks as well, which obviously use a lot of supply. Having the extra supply hubs is worth it, especially when you're just on that defensive game, waiting to build up a little bit to attack. But yeah, once winter 1943 is sort of passed, or we've inflicted a significant amount of casualties on the Germans here, 5 million. You can see what their sort of rough manpower count is right now too. Once you have sort of inflicted quite a lot of damage, also helps if the Allies are landing in Europe, which they're not right now. But yeah, once that sort of starts to happen, then that's when you want to start looking at attacking. All right, we've just completed Lessons of War. So all of our generals, well, I mean, you're obviously not going to see them now, but any of our generals that would have had the Cowed by Stalin trait, they've now been removed. So if you scroll through here, nice, juicy generals back up to their full potential. One of which was actually old mate Zhukov. So he's back up to his full strength now. Pretty much don't attack until that's been completed. So that's another sort of yardstick for you to use there. You also want to be waiting until the snow, like the winter, is gone. The reason being, if you come into your terrain here, you can see there's deep snow. Look at the penalties: reducing your speed, reducing your org, minus 40% attack and breakthrough. And then the snowing as well is going to also reduce that, like, you know, your supply and everything like that. So definitely wait until the snow has cleared before you go doing any attacks. You can start in some of these areas down south if you wanted to like knock Romania out first. I like going straight for the heart of Germany, but it's up to you. I am going to be using paratroopers here, which is not required. You can absolutely just use your tanks to push. You don't have to bother with the paratroopers. I very much enjoy it because, especially if you go for this side down this special forces branch, enemy divisions in states that we paradrop into will have their organization reduced. Once you unlock those first two in the doctrines, they become very, very strong. When you are planning your attacks as well, don't do just like a full frontline attack plan, because all you're going to do is cause yourself a heap of casualties, and that's what we've just spent like 3 years or 2 years inflicting on the Germans. You want to use your armored divisions, use your air force. We've got our close air support and most of our planes, most of our fighters over this area. Move in your tanks into the front line, draw a battle plan, use the staff office plan to build up the planning speed a lot faster, and then try to get encirclements. Like, this is a really good spot to try and encircle a lot of German troops. If you can make it across to Memel and secure these ports, you would have cut off usually around 24 divisions. Now, one thing as well, you need to be mindful of supply. So try to look at areas where you've got a bit of an abundance of that. Right here, there's not heaps. Our troops do have supply right now because we've just moved in there. So we're going to try and attack and take Vilnius, the supply hub there, before we lose all the supply they've got. Also, just to also reinforce why the Grand Battle Plan Doctrine is so good, due to our planning bonus, we're getting a 50% attack bonus. So you can sort of have a look at the tooltip there, where that's coming from, but yeah, incredibly strong. There are a lot of German divisions in this area right now, but we are kind of going to have to just attack and see if we can capitalize on that. Remember to support attack with your infantry too. And I have also deployed a 24 stack of motorized infantry, just because we have so many trucks. And what you're going to find is they will tank up your supply a little bit, so don't bring them in until we do get that first breakthrough. But once you do make that, you want to go ahead and try to move your tanks through the front lines quite rapidly, and you want to have our other, yeah, perfect. Then we want to have our motorized coming in to support them. At this stage too, this is when you want to start doing some collaboration governments in Germany, because the sooner you can capitulate them, the better. So just take 2 of your spies, which aren't super near the front lines. We'll take good old Ramon. I mean, he is, but we've already got a spy in that area. And we'll take Hildegard. And then we can basically just set them to automatically repeat this mission, and they'll go ahead and start the collaboration governments in Germany. We've started our breakthrough near Vilnius, and we are making some moves down in Romania as well. Also, our extra supply hubs have been constructed here, which you can see now. I mean, we're still mildly out of supply, but far better situation than we were in before. Again, let's make sure we're securing the supply hubs. Here we go. First encirclement of the day. That's what we're looking at, maybe almost 20 divisions here. That's pretty good. Our next plan of the day is going to be Zhukov's boys down here, as well as the armored divisions, and then our paratroopers, which we're going to launch. And we have almost done it. Yes, there we go. Well, essentially, pretty much just wanted to land here and take out these ports with our paratroopers, and I think we've done a pretty good bloody job. And just like that, we have captured another large encirclement up here. Unfortunately, a lot of the German troops did retreat, but we still got a decent amount. Like, there's a 12 stack here, there's a few others, and what you want to do is just take your main your armored tanks or whatever, put them in between, put them right in the middle of their line of escape. So even like this spot here, we are very close to losing this tile. We'll just reinforce that. And yeah, you basically just want to move in and destroy them as quick as you can. Move on to the next thing, you know. Beautiful. Look at the helmets popping. And the reason you want to be focusing, I mean, I've talked about this, you know, dozens of times, but the reason you want to go for the encirclements is because all of those divisions they lost, like probably 20 divisions up here, 20 divisions down there, they can't just reinforce them straight away. Even in spots like this, if we can get a quick little pocket, even just 7 divisions there, it's going to thin out their front lines more and more gradually over time. And we also just got modern tanks. So we'll make up a design for them now. We're going to go for this design. We're going to put the heavy howitzer on there, as well as the autoloader, stabilizer, and we're going to bump it up to 10 km/h speeds just because, frankly, we can. All right, this is the only time that I'm going to sort of permit like a full frontline assault just to see how it goes, because we have a respectable amount of equipment and manpower stacked up. So we are going to launch that. More paratroopers have landed. Let's go. We'll just move ourselves across this river here, take Warsaw. Why not? So now right here, there's a great opportunity to see if we can try and get an encirclement, and winter's here. Of course it is. Lovely. Might not be able to use our tanks, but we might just be able to muscle our way through with infantry. Let's see what we can do. Now that the snows are here though, it is a very good time to just sit back and relax and wait for the next year. Oh, there's encirclement here, which I didn't even notice. Let's quickly check in on Italy. Yep. You love to see it. I just want to show you guys with the modern turret, the advanced high velocity cannon, and the squeeze bore adapter, you can get 286 piercing on these tank destroyers with the modern tanks. It's so good. All right, January's come around and there's actually no snow over in the actual German part of the map. There is a bit down here, or it's cold weather rather, which still applies penalties. So we're just going to launch our offensive. At this stage, we want to get as much war score as possible. So we're going to gobble up Germany now. Paratroops in Berlin. Let's go. All right, boys. Now you just need to hold out until bloody Konev gets here. I am a little concerned for their safety, if I'm being honest. Let's just run through to rescue them. Done it. We've linked them up. Let's go take Hanover or something. I don't know. And then bloody Zhukov down here has almost encircled all of these troops. So just remember to keep moving your spies around as you take territory, they'll get moved around and pushed back, just like this guy here. So just remember to put them in particular areas to keep your intel network up. Oh, Romania capped. Didn't even realize it. Gregory Zhukov's only gone and bloody done it. What a legend. All right, let's go ahead and take out this pocket. Best way to deal with big old pockets like this, just select all the troops and right click in the middle. Quick casualty check in. 2.7 million losses to Germany at 7.5 million. Oh, this is such a massive encirclement here. We could honestly, if you were playing a long game on your own, you could honestly just leave them, but I really want to add these all to the casualty count. Oh, it's so beautiful. This is a bit of an update on how we're going right now. Hungary's gone. Love to see that. And we just need to take some of these high VP states down here for Germany, and then we should have them. Germany is 2% away from capitulating. So let's see what victory points we can find that we can run on down to. Munich, Linz, Vienna. Whoops, let's go Linz, Salzburg, Vienna. Surely these guys can liberate Vienna. And there we have it. that is the end. So that is pretty much it. If we have a look at the faction map mode, you can see the Comintern has spread gloriously across the globe now. We've even got some overseas colonies. But in any case, that is my method of playing as the Soviet Union. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, there are many different ways that you can play this game, and I just find that this is what works for me. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this helps you out. Let me know in the comments if you did enjoy this, if you think there was anything I missed. I did come down with the flu sort of halfway through making this, so apologies if you could hear me sniffling. But also, yeah, let me know what other videos you guys would like to see me cover off next. Just let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.